Hello, my darling friends. So, to kickstart this learning how to use the resources that we have online, I thought we would just begin with Psalm 91, which I think has been pertinent for the last 2 years. And I'm going to refrain from talking about any upcoming events so that we don't get into trouble, but I'm sure you know what I mean. So I think it's going to continue to be an important psalm, and just in general. So let's begin. I have opened up Blue Letter Bible and I've typed in Psalm 91. I've chosen the New King James Version. So let's begin. So what is beautiful about doing expository Bible teaching, where we do literally a verse by verse and word by word study, is that so often the English translation gives a very flat, one-dimensional interpretation of words that, especially in Hebrew, are sort of multi-layered and very picturesque. And they typically they have got usually 3 or 4 meanings. But we're not going to go into learning Hebrew now. But we're just going to start very simply. So let's begin with the first verse. And even if that's all we do tonight, that's going to be good enough. So so let's look here. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. So in English, these words, we can understand, sitting in the shadow, if it's a very hot day where the sun is burning down and we seek the shade of a tree. So we can understand that. But the secret place, what does that really, really mean? And what does it mean to dwell? In English, it's got a very, so if we look here, for instance, we just go to dwell, meaning it's very simple, to live in or at a specified place. So going now to this verse, we can go here to tools and we can see that there's a number of different resources that we can look at. So the first one we're going to look at is the interlinear, which will give us the Hebrew. So here obviously we have the Hebrew word by word, and what's absolutely magnificent about the Hebrew is that each letter in a word has got a picture meaning and layers of meaning, and then when you combine them together, it has got even more of a meaning. So let's look at the word for dwell. So we're going to click here, and so in the Strong's Concordance we have got the H is for Hebrew, and then when you go to the New Testament you've got the G, so it'll have the G, and the number. So let's go here. And here we can see it's, I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure it's Yashav. So I don't think it's going to record it because, see.
Gotcha. Strong's H3427.
Yashev. Okay, so here we can see it's a verb, so it's an action word, and it's a primitive root. Not entirely sure what that means, but it's an old word. So here we can see that the King James Version translates this word in the following manner: to dwell. And you can see in the Old Testament it's used 437 times. Inhabitant, sit, abide, so to be still, to inhabit, down, remain, tarry, set, continue, place, to be still. And it also makes me think of be still and know that I am God. Taken, and then there's miscellaneous usages. So to have one's abode. So, while I know one of my dear friends is now technically and officially and horrifically homeless, her faith is so strong that her abode is in the Lord. And while she has her belongings, which she can fit in her car, and she is having to stay temporarily with people where she can find shelter and refuge, it's not a permanent place. And the way that our world says that we need to live is in permanent houses, permanent dwellings. But when we look at the word for tabernacle, and the way that the Israelites lived, is they lived in tents, which were temporary, and they would keep moving. So we can look down. It even means to marry, to give a dwelling to, and that kind of refers back again to how the Lord is our kinsman redeemer, who is our provider and our protector. And a beautiful, beautiful and amazing book to study is the book of Ruth, and that we can look at later. But that the Lord gives us a dwelling place that is eternal, even while we were here on this earth. That even though our earthly tent, our bodies, may give up and we have to move out of them, we're going to our eternal dwelling place. And Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions, many rooms, many dwellings. So that's also just an incredible thought. And that's why it's so important to have an eternal perspective. I'm going to try not to sound preachy. But here again, we've got an expanded definition. To sit down, specifically as judge, in ambush and quiet, by implication to dwell, to remain, to settle, to marry, and being the bride of Christ. It takes on a whole new meaning. To continue, to ease one's self, to endure, to establish. And then there's often the negative version of the word. So fail, for example, habitation, haunt, like the haunt of jackals. Make, to keep house. Then again, a negative word, lurking. To bring again to a place. To return, to seat, to sit down, to sit still, and again to tarry, so to linger. So often when we have a crisis, we seek the Lord, and and then as soon as things are settled, we rush on again to the next best worldly thing. But we should tarry, we should linger, we should stay and wait in Him. So here this looks very complicated, but you can click on all of these different things and explore and explore and explore. But always, before we begin any time in the Word, we should always pray. And I suppose I should have done that before we started. But this is my third attempt at making a video. The first one was this morning, but I was in a restaurant and it was a bit noisy and interrupty. But what's also beautiful here is that it means also to consummate marriage. So it's almost like when we dwell with the Lord, we are consummating our marriage, we're confirming our union with Him. So now we're going to go to Gesenius, And he was a fabulous historian and lexicologist. Not quite sure what the right word is. So you can click. So these are obviously not highlightable, but you can it's yeah, and I always love reading his ones specifically because it's very, very old and very historical. And so you can see here, like if a judge that sits on the seat of judgment, thrones. Okay, so I'm just going to be very, very spontaneous and unrehearsed here, and none of us need to sound clever, so I'm just going to, there will be some pauses. I don't know what the amusing story in Pocock is, but we can always look that up. A sitting down, habitations, places, a throne, a bed. And you know, when you sit down on a chair, and even if you sit down on a throne, it's a very special place, an appointed place, a place for royalty. And a bed is where we rest and where we sleep and where so often we pray, and we find, our energy is restored. You know, we wake up with renewed energy for the day. And in the vulgar Arabic, the verb is commonly used in the sense of lying in wait, springing on the prey, and leaping in general. So king sitting on the throne of an army, which sits down in a place and holds possession of it. And, you know, that also makes me think of, having boundaries and guarding our hearts, and, spiritual warfare and wearing our armor. It's also used of mourners, and also of those who sit down idly and do nothing and who are slothful. And there it gives you various references. To sit with anyone, to associate with him, to sit at the king's right hand. And Jesus is sitting at God's right hand. To remain and abide, remaining in the tents, staying at home. To remain here, to remain for someone, to expect him. And I also think of this whole thing of waiting and watching for Jesus's return. And so often we're rushing forward to be, to busy ourselves, and even, we try to busy ourselves for his return, but sometimes we do need to rest, and that kind of goes back to the whole story of Ruth, which we can look at later. But that's something that the Lord had to teach me when I had my burnout. And it was actually Chuck Missler and John Corson's expository teachings around the book of Ruth. And sort of the key phrase that I had to learn was Ruth resting, Boaz working. And that it wasn't me through my fleshly striving that was providing for myself and Layla and protecting us, that I had to rest in the Lord. I did my work, I did my gleaning, and I looked after Layla and the people that I needed to around me, but that I had to not strive, and that I had to trust the Lord, that he was my provider and protector, that he was my husband. So we can go down. Talks about hymns. To take in marriage, to take a wife. Okay, so we can then go to another really brilliant resource, which is, but they've got some terrible, I wouldn't look at any of their teachers that they host and things, but Study Light, and they've got a lot of ads, but they've got a very, very good Bible study tools. So, so if we go here, let's go to Psalm 91, and I don't want that version. I want, so they've got the Amplified, which is great. Where's the New King James? We'll just go here then. Unfortunately, they've got the Message, which is disgusting, and that's a discussion for another day, along with the Passion. So we'll start here, and then, oops, so we can go here. So you can, I haven't looked at this because normally I use all of these on my phone. Okay, so it just gives the context. So let's go to the interlinear. So let's go to dwells. So here they've also got the slightly different pronunciation, but I think that's got to do with the Americans. So here you've got the Brown Driver Briggs, which is similar to Strong's. And here's the Strong's, which is basically what we already read. And some more here: live, living, enthroned, dweller, wait, stay. I much more prefer the online one, because what else? So here you can see all the commentaries, and here I'm not sure about all of these, so I just stick with so like Gill's exposition of the whole Bible is good. I haven't looked at all of these. I'm just really incredibly cautious. So I would leave this, but I think maybe, so here you've got Nave's topical index, which is great. Abidance, you can look there. Yeah, so there's just so much you can do. So I think maybe what I'll try and do is show you how I make notes. But I also think that's very personal, because not everybody likes to make handwritten notes. But yeah, I don't know where, maybe it's under language tools. That's not very helpful. Okay, so let's go to Yashav, which will be the Yod, which is there. Let's close the ad. So yeah, if you don't know the Hebrew, you won't really know where to look. And now it's taken me to T, which I didn't want to go to. Yeah, these are starting, and it's written from right to left. Okay, okay, so now this is getting very, very, let me just call it organic. I want to search for a word. So, let me rather do this on my phone, I think. Let me just go here. Yashav, study, light, dwell. No. Okay, so let me go back and let's just check. Go back to the Psalms 91. Why is my screen going on and off? I wonder if it's a recorder. Very strange. So let's go to dwells. And it is 3427. Maybe this will bring it up a bit better. Although I have a feeling it's the same. No. Yay! Finally. Okay. So this looks at the exact letters. So the root means turn and seat. The pictograph is a picture of the two teeth, which is shin, of the two front teeth pressing, representing pressing. The B is a picture of a tent. Combined, these mean press to the tent, a place of dwelling as the place returned to, or turning back or away from someone or something. A captive is one turned away from a place of dwelling. And then it means also to shove. So then these are all the different words. So our word is yashav. So shove, and interesting where the English word shove comes from. So it says returning to one's place of residence where one sits. But the opposite meaning is a captive is one who is turned away from a place. Shavav here is to be broken into pieces. Flame. So there's backsliding, capture, captive. So we're looking for yashav, and the ya is a yod, which is the picture of an arm and a hand. So here we go, yashav, to sit dwelling, a place of dwelling as the place returned to. And the Lord always says, return to me and I will return to you. Return to me and there you will find restoration and refreshment. To set oneself down in the dwelling place for the night or for long periods of time. To settle or remain. And the same words that we read before, the Strong's word, the place of sitting, assembly, situation, sojourning. So, it also means, it being part of a journey. But this includes the word, has got the letter M, which is, my brain has gone blank. Oh my gosh. Mem. And that means water. And it also means deep mystery. And the W is a vav, which is a tent peg, which means secured. So like, you would nail your tent pegs into the ground and, attach your tent with a rope to the tent pegs. Or there would be a peg in a wall, which you would hang things on. So secure. It also means a sojourner, one who travels from place to place. Foreigner, which we are. So we can go really, really deep down into these things. But I think for tonight, I almost think that's enough for just a start. And I don't really know if that was really even very exciting or educational. But it's a start, and I think the thing is just to begin. So if we just go back to where we were and just look at this in light of the whole verse, how much that already changes the meaning for us and deepens the meaning for us. So he who dwells, who stays, who sits down as on a throne, lies down on a bed to rest and to sleep and to restore, who tarries there, who lingers there, So he who dwells as an inhabitant. So it just deepens the meaning. So it's really beautiful to write your verse like in the middle of an A4 page, and then to take each word and then to sort of do a mind map, to like do an arrow from that word, and write down all the different layers of meaning to that word. And so often the Lord just in the seeking, he answers, and he shows us the most beautiful and things that are so often exactly and beautifully and perfectly specific to where we are in that time. So yeah, so that's how much time we can spend, and I'm so grateful that we're going to have eternity to to sing his praises and to worship him and to know his word and to learn more and more and more. Because once you start learning about him, it's like it's just like getting to know somebody that you just absolutely love. And the more you find out about them and how much they love you, and how incredible they are, the more you want to get to know them, and you just never want to stop. And it's just such an adventure. So yeah, so I think I'm going to end there for tonight, and I'm going to post this on YouTube, and we will take it from there. And if you've got any questions, you've got my number. Just let me know. And if there's anything specific you want me to look at further on down the line, please let me know. And also, I've left my blog link. I will post this link there, and the link to what we've done tonight, the links, everything that we've done tonight. And yeah, and I think, yeah, nothing has to be perfect and nothing has to be fancy, but I think it's just learning together. And I was just looking at Acts and how the church was established, and it's really just about being assembled together in one accord. That's all it's about. And even if we are an online church, or if we only meet once a week or once every 2 weeks, and if our group grows bigger, and even if it's only online, if we are assembled together in one accord and in the name of Jesus, that is church. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm praying for each of you, and I'll speak to you soon.